Hello and welcome back to another video on the Football Zone and to a weekend preview, back to domestic football, previewing some Premier League and Championship action. So let's get straight into it. And starting off on Friday night, Chelsea, the team on everyone's lips at the moment, hosting Fulham. And yeah, I don't know if the like of Enzo Fernandez will be available. The other new signings, obviously, except for Felix, I presume they will be. Feels like just the other day that Fulham played Chelsea. Fulham obviously coming up on top there. But I think Chelsea at home this time, with the momentum booster of Enzo Fernandez, Mudryk and all that coming in, I can see them picking up the win here. Moving on then to Saturday's games and Everton taking on Arsenal at Goodison Park. And yeah, Everton, I mean, it's just been a terrible week for them, hasn't it? Sean Dyche as new manager, for me it's a good appointment, but 4 losses on the trot, no new signings on deadline was just awful, and now facing the league leaders. Ironically, there are some stats that are in Everton's favour for this one, but Arsenal, they're just so good at the moment, aren't they? I can only see one result, and that's a win for Mikel Arteta's side. Moving on then to Aston Villa, as they take on Leicester at Villa Park. Villa on a good Premier League run. They've won the last 2 games, unbeaten in 4, winning 3 of those, and taking on a Leicester side that, you know, in the league are struggling a bit at the moment. Did pick up a draw against a good Brighton side last time out, so that will give them some momentum. But yeah, when you look at that, Villa comfortably ahead of Leicester in the league at the moment. I can only really see this going one way, and that is a Villa win. I'm going to say it will be 1-0 to them. Moving on then to Brentford as they host Southampton at the Brentford Community Stadium. And Brentford, yeah, they're in solid Premier League form at the moment. Yeah, I mean, drew to Leeds last night. Before that, their form had been really solid in the league, beating the likes of Liverpool and West Ham. But Southampton obviously going out to Newcastle in the League Cup. But for me, there are still signs of improvement there. So there are reasons to be optimistic. Made a few deadline day signings as well, which could help in their survival. But for this game, I think the Bees will have too much. So I'm going to say 2-0. Moving on then to Brighton as they take on Bournemouth at the Amex. And yeah, Brighton kept hold of Caicedo, kept hold of McAllister, kept hold of all of their key players. So I'd say that's a successful January for them. But the question is, will the likes of Caicedo return? Who knows? But yeah, taking on a Bournemouth side that really are struggling at the moment. Could only draw at home to Forest last night. A game that you felt like they really needed to win. And before that, their form has been, let's face it, pretty abysmal. So yeah, I think Brighton at home will have far too much from here. I'm going to say 3-0. Moving on then to Old Trafford, and Manchester United take on Crystal Palace. And Manchester United on an absolute roll at the moment. They've won the last 3 in all competitions after a small blip against Arsenal and Palace. But yeah, I mean, doing so well into a cup final. But taking on a Palace side that obviously did nick a result against them a few weeks back, so it's not going to be straightforward game, this one. I don't think it's a game that Manchester United should win, but Palace do have quality all over the pitch, which will make it tough. But I'm going to say United will pick up the win here. Moving on then to Molineux as Wolves take on Liverpool at Molineux. Already said that. But yeah, I mean, Wolves coming into this one, they've lost. They're not in great form, are they, really, since Lopetegui's came in? I mean, it's up a bit, but recently it hasn't been too good. They lost to Liverpool recently in the cut replay, lost to Man City. That was always going to be a bit of a free hit, but still, they'll be looking for a result here. But Liverpool struggling, losing to Brighton last week. They need to find a result somewhere to get anywhere near the top 4 chances. I think they have enough to beat Wolves, only just so, 1-0. Moving on then to St James's Park, and Newcastle take on West Ham. And yeah, Newcastle, like Manchester United, into the EFL Cup final. But like Manchester United, they can't just relax in the league until the big game comes about, because they're still only 3 points clear of Tottenham. Admittedly, they do have a game in hand in the race for the Champions League. And just imagine if they got into the Champions League, taking on a West Ham side that have picked up 2 wins on the trot now and are showing signs of re-emergence, but I think Newcastle still have too much from here. 2-0. Moving on then to Forest as they take on Leeds at the City Ground. And Forest, yeah, their form in the last 3 games has kind of dropped off since obviously they went on a really good run, but now they are kind of escaping from the relegation battle a bit. They got 4-point advantage, so they're not out of it by any means, but they do have a bit more of a buffer than Leeds, who are 3 points behind them, but do have a game in hand. So yeah, it's a big game for both these sides as they look to get further away from the relegation zone. But Forest at home, at the moment, they've been doing relatively well recently. I can see them continuing some good momentum. 1-0 to them. Moving on then to Tottenham as they take on Manchester City at White Hart Lane. And Tottenham, yeah, 2 good wins against Fulham and Preston in the last 2. But then, yeah, you just have to look back to when they played Man City a few weeks back. And yeah, let's face it, they were outclassed, weren't they? And to be honest, I can kind of see a similar scenario here, even playing at home. Man City, looking strong recently. Yeah, I'm going to say it will be a 2-1 win for Man City. It won't be comfortable, but I think they'll have enough. And then moving on into Friday's games in the Championship. And there's only one, West Brom taking on Coventry at the Hawthorns. And yeah, West Brom coming into this one actually off the back of 2 defeats on the trot, but obviously one against Burnley, one against Bristol City, so maybe form a bit concerned, but I wouldn't be too concerned. Coventry coming off a big win against Huddersfield, because before that their form, yeah, let's face it, wasn't too great, but I think being at home, West Brom probably will have a bit too much for them here. I'm going to say it will be 2-1. Moving on then to Saturday's games in the Championship, and yeah, starting off with a big clash towards the top of the table, Norwich taking on Burnley at Carrow Road. And Burnley, as we know, they've just been pretty unstoppable recently, haven't they, in the league? So yeah, it's going to need a big performance by Norwich. But ever since David Wagner's come in, things have got a lot better for Norwich. 4 goals in away wins over Preston and Coventry. So this won't be an easy game for Burnley at all. Playing a team that's also just come down from the Premier League at home. I'm going to say it'll be a draw here. I can see Norwich actually taking some points off Burnley. Moving on then to Rotherham as they take on Sheffield United at the New York Stadium. And Rotherham, yeah, to be fair to them, their form has picked up really quite a lot recently, with a win over Blackburn and a draw against Watford, 2 promotion chasing sides, so that will definitely give them some confidence. Sheffield United, obviously off the back of that hectic draw against Wrexham, got to play them in a replay as well. I don't know if I'll be looking forward to that, but their league form's so good here, I think they'll have too much that the likes of Watford and Rovers can do, and I think they'll get past Rotherham here. Moving on then to Huddersfield as they take on QPR at the John Smith Stadium. And yeah, Huddersfield, coming into this one, they did have a bit of a revival, but that seems to have petered out. 3 losses in the last 4, still deep in relegation trouble, but you know, they are 22nd, they've got 2 games in hand on Cardiff, only 3 points different, so you know, it's not over by any means, far from it in fact. And QPR really are struggling to adapt under Neil Critchley. It's not quite clicking for them at the moment, lots of draws, so yeah, it's a game that you feel could go either way, but I'm going to call it another draw for QPR, 0-0. Moving on then to Luton as they take on Stoke at Kenilworth Road. And yeah, Luton coming into this one off the back of a 1-0 win over Cardiff, a late victory, but they'll be super pleased by that. They're in a really good position now to get into the playoffs. And Stoke having a bit of a resurgence, 2 wins on the trot now, so that'll definitely build up confidence in their camp, won't it? And yeah, I think they'll be feeling confidence against a team that hasn't been playing too well recently, so I'm going to say this will be 1-0 to Luton. Moving on then to Borough as they take on Blackpool at the Riverside. And yeah, Borough coming into this one obviously on really great form, done a great job to shake off a team like Watford so easily, a fellow promotion chasing team, and I think it really shows the great job that Michael Carrick's doing there at the moment. But Blackpool, they've lost the last 2 in all competitions, lost to Southampton last weekend in the Cup, and yeah, are in deep relegation trouble, sat in 23rd. They need a result, but I think Borough here will have too much for them. I'm going to say 2-0. Moving on then to Millwall as they take on Sunderland at the Den. And yeah, Millwall coming into this one off the back of a 1-0 win away at Cardiff. Good win, because before that they had 2 losses in the trot against 2 high-flying sides in Middlesbrough and Sheffield United, but a much-needed win. Sunderland obviously restricting Fulham, high-flying in the Premier League, to a draw in the Cup last week, beating Middlesbrough before that. So yeah, they're on a good little run themselves, but I feel like Millwall will gain a lot from that win against Cardiff, and at home I can see them just about edging this one 1-0 in a big race for playoffs. But moving on then to Preston as they take on Bristol City at Deepdale. And yeah, Preston, their form's kind of inconsistent at the moment. Lost to Tottenham last weekend in the Cup, don't worry about that. Won 3 of the last 4 in the Championship though, so they're going to start to get some momentum now, I think, against the Bristol City side though, who are unbeaten actually since 2022, so they've had a solid start to 2023. Pressure kind of easing on Nigel Pearson a bit, and yeah, Preston, I think at home though, they will have enough to defeat them. I'm going to say 2-1. Moving on then to Reading as they take on Watford at Medeski. And yeah, Reading beat Watford the other week in the Cup, but I think in this one Watford probably more full strength than they were for that game, let's say. Few injuries back as well, because I know they've had a lot of injuries recently, but are off the back of a few disappointing results, so they'll want a response. And as we know, managers don't last long. Slaven Bilic may find out soon, who knows. But yeah, Reading not in a great round of form at the moment. I think Watford will just have enough to get past Reading. Moving on then to Hull as they take on Cardiff at the KCOM. And yeah, Hull were a 3-0 win over QPR last time out. Big win for them. And yeah, Cardiff struggling. Sabri Lamucci, he's got a big job on his hands. And yeah, it wasn't a great start with a loss at Luton, but it was later on. I guess there were positives to take from it. The fact that they held in it for so long, but I suppose Luton also did have missed penalties, etc. So yeah, it kind of depends on what side you take on that one. But yeah, Hull at home, I think they may have enough to defeat Cardiff here and pull away from the relegation picture even further. Swansea taking on Birmingham at the Liberty Stadium is next up. And yeah, Swansea draw with QPR last time out. They haven't played since 21st of January, so a bit of a while. But yeah, before that, their form was inconsistent, let's say. And kind of it's a similar story with Birmingham, who are struggling a bit, had a good run. So yeah, they need to just pick up some points just to make sure they're away from the relegation zone a bit. So yeah, I mean, like, I think Swansea at home may have the better of this one, but who knows? It's one that you feel like could go either way. And finally, the Monday night football in the Championship is Blackburn taking on Wigan at Ewood Park. And yeah, Blackburn, their form's kind of been funny at the moment recently. 2 wins, a loss, and 2 draws in the last 5, so inconsistent. But Wigan, they've lost the last 2, both to Luton. New manager in Kodo Torre, that experiment didn't work, so hopefully this is a chance for Wigan to kind of rebound off, let's face it, a really shocking run. But yeah, let's see how it goes for them. I think Rovers, though, in this one will have too much of them. I'm going to say it will be 3-0 to them. But anyway, guys, that's it for the video. Thanks very much for watching. Remember to like, share, subscribe. Don't forget to comment down below. Follow us on the stream for daily football news. And subscribe to the channel. That'd be greatly appreciated. Thanks very much for watching. Peace.